Raider Nation, the heat in Las Vegas is off the charts right now. There is a heavyweight showdown coming against Denver, with the defense doing the heavy lifting and a key offensive piece shoved right into the spotlight. In the middle of all that, the head coach's job is wobbling, with reports already pointing to a likely replacement. The most important position on offense is still up for debate. A familiar name is back on the radar, and there is a decision on the table that could change the future of this fan base in silver and black. Stick with me, because the ending hits hard. But before we dive into every detail of this breakdown, let me talk to you real quick. If you live and breathe Raiders football for real, hit that subscribe button. It is free and it helps this community a ton. Smash the like button too, because that tells YouTube to push this video out to more fans in silver and black. Look at the situation heading into this game with the Broncos. We just saw this matchup, and now it is worth a lot more in terms of pride than standings. The defense is still carrying the load, and the offense is still trying to prove it can keep up. On the other side, you have a direct showdown between Courtland Sutton, their number one target and one of the most reliable players in this secondary. Denver's passing attack runs through Courtland Sutton, that veteran wideout who is always stretching the field. When the passing game looks good, the ball almost always finds its way into his hands. He puts up numbers, he scores touchdowns, and he is constantly that safety valve on third down. If the defense loses focus for a split second, he is wide open deep, and suddenly it is a huge play and a fresh set of downs. On our side, Eric Stokes steps in, a guy who arrived with a lot of doubt from the fan base and now plays like he owns that spot. He has allowed very few catches and yards and forces the quarterback to think twice before throwing in his direction. Seeing Stokes glued to Sutton on third down already lets everyone who lives and breathes Raiders football exhale a little. In the last meeting with Denver, that combo worked beautifully. The defense held them to only 10 points, took the comfort away from the quarterback, and basically erased Courtland Sutton from the game. Their offensive script fell apart. That was not luck, that was execution and quick recognition of what the offense was trying to do. Patrick Graham even talked about it afterward. He said the group understood the plan, recognized formations and game situations, and most importantly, tackled better. When this silver and black defense stops missing silly tackles, everything changes. The opposing offense starts thinking twice before attacking the middle of the field. For this second matchup in such a short span, the adjustment is mental. They already know what the Raiders did. They are going to tweak routes and alignments and use more motion before the snap to try to free Sutton again. Stokes will have to stay patient and accept that at some point the opponent is going to win a snap. The key is not letting that turn into a streak. And there is another layer. When you build an entire game plan to erase one main target, you open space somewhere else on the field. The defensive line has to get home, the pass rush cannot disappear, and the rest of the secondary cannot turn into a highway while that duel is happening on one side. It is that short blanket that drives every fan crazy. To be honest with you, I am not expecting a perfect performance. I am expecting a slugfest, long third downs, contested throws, and that kind of game where every clean tackle pulls a shout out of whoever is watching from the couch. If this defense brings the same attitude from the first meeting, you can say there is an identity starting to form. Now tell me in the comments, do you trust this plan against Courtland Sutton to hold up again, or do you think they are going to find an answer? And keep this in mind, if the defense shows up again and the result still does not come, the pressure is not going to land on that unit. It is going to fall on the people running the show on the sideline, and that is exactly what we need to unpack next. Honestly, the situation around the Raiders coaching staff right now is heavy. This is a team with 2 wins and 10 losses, cycling through coordinators left and right, and it still feels like nothing moves forward. Every week looks like a replay of the previous one in a different stadium. Against the Chargers, it was another rough night. Las Vegas lost by a score of 31-14. The offense could not protect the pocket, and the defense got gashed in the run game at key moments. From the outside, it looked like a team without direction, without strong in-game adjustments. Thomas Valentine from Pro Football Focus exposed all of that in his weekly power rankings. He dropped the Raiders near the bottom, called out the offensive line for allowing pressure on close to 40% of Geno Smith's dropbacks, and pointed to a defense that could not hold up against the run. His final question is the same one a lot of people are quietly asking. In this situation, is the head coach really the right man for the job? And that is where the conflict hits everyone who puts on silver and black every Sunday. The team is squarely in the race for the top of the 2026 draft, and a lot of people are looking at the standings thinking about a high pick, a new quarterback, and a full rebuild. But nobody can stand watching this team get punched in the mouth every single week. To be honest with you, I cannot bring myself to root for losses, but I also cannot pretend this awful season does not help the future of the roster. For Pete Carroll, the leash gets shorter with every game. He keeps insisting that playing veterans gives the team a better chance to win right now, talking about experience and security, that classic coach speech from someone who does not want to embrace a full rebuild. But reality is screaming that this roster, the way he puts it on the field, does not compete at a high level. It makes way more sense to start throwing the young guys into the fire now. Rookies and second-year players need to take their lumps in this stretch so they are ready when better pieces are around them. It hurts, of course, but that is how you build a real foundation. And that kind of perspective from the stands, balancing pride and patience, is something you only hear from people who live and breathe Raiders football every day. Ashton Jeanty is the clearest example. He was a premium draft pick, arrived surrounded by hype, and in the last 2 games he has only 15 carries. That is not how you find out if you have a franchise building block or just another name on the depth chart. If you want real answers, you give him volume, let him make mistakes, and let him learn from getting hit. It is better to lose while watching a rookie grow than to lose while leaning on a veteran who is not part of tomorrow. If this final stretch of the season does not bring real growth in how the young guys are used, a mindset shift, and at least a hint of offensive identity, the offseason conversation is going to be very simple. The team can take advantage of a high draft slot, but somebody in that building is going to ask if it is not time to pair that pick with a new head coach. And hold that thought, because there is a big name the Raiders were already flirting with last offseason that is back on the horizon. Let me be very clear. When stories start to leak that the team is already looking at another name for the top job, it is because internal confidence has collapsed. And with the Raiders, that hits differently, because it is not just about firing the current coach. It is about who might walk in to replace him. Last offseason, there were already reports that the front office was dreaming big on the defensive side. They were willing to spend big on coordinators. They backed Patrick Graham, but they also made a massive offer to Robert Saleh, the defensive coach with that San Francisco 49ers background. The idea was simple and kind of wild at the same time. Bring Robert Saleh in as defensive coordinator and quietly line him up as the head coach in waiting. Robert Saleh chose another path. He decided to go back to San Francisco, rebuild his value as the coordinator of an already dominant defense, and wait for his next shot to be a head coach. And honestly, it is easy to understand why he would turn down being a backup plan in Las Vegas. The craziest part is that now the landscape is different. The Raiders season has turned into a very public disaster. The chance of a coaching change is real, and that same name is back in the mix, this time to walk straight in as head coach. In an interview, he has already made it clear that he still wants to be at the top, that he has not let go of the dream of leading a locker room. His resume is not spotless, though. His time as head coach in New York was full of problems and ugly records. Even so, to be honest with you, the Jets are such a mess as a franchise that it is hard to tell where Robert Saleh's shortcomings end and the organization's chaos begins. In a more stable environment, he might look a lot different. On the positive side, his recent defensive work in San Francisco has been big time. Even with injuries all over the roster, that unit is still among the best in the league in points allowed. He is the kind of coach who comes in, sets a standard for effort, and does not tolerate guys going half speed. That fits perfectly with what fans in silver and black want to see on the field. The real question is this: after so many years betting on defensive minds as head coach, will this franchise really run the same play again? Because if they bring in Robert Saleh, they absolutely have to pair him with a young, creative offensive coordinator who is ready to develop a new quarterback. If they whiff on that partner again, it becomes just one more cycle of a strong defense and a stale offense. This is the kind of conversation, weighing flaws and strengths of a possible successor, that really grabs anyone who follows every rumor and every behind-the-scenes report. Only here do you feel that balance being made the way a Raiders fan actually thinks. Tell me what you would do in the comments if you were running this front office. If ownership really opens the door for Robert Saleh and ties that to a high draft pick, the franchise changes course for good. But that whole storyline forces one question that nobody inside the building can dodge anymore. No matter who is on the sideline, what is this team going to do at the most important position on offense? There is one thing this team cannot hide anymore. The quarterback spot is sinking right along with the rest of the offense. The trade for Geno Smith looked like a safety move, that experienced guy to run the huddle while the rest of the roster settled in. But the way things are right now, it feels like they dropped a veteran into a broken offense and told him to figure it out. The offensive line is a huge problem. Week after week, Geno is facing quick pressure. He is getting knocked down constantly and has to get the ball out before routes even develop. An analyst at NFL.com has already shoved him near the bottom of the quarterback rankings, and even that breakdown admits he is playing behind what might be the worst line in the league with a running game that disappears. It is like asking a guy to drive a car with no brakes and then blaming him for crashing. That does not clear Geno, though. There are slow reads, there are forced throws. There are moments where he has to take better care of the football. He is paid well to do that, and he knows it. To be honest with you, the problem is that the whole offense looks built on the idea of Geno will improvise and bail us out. There is no consistent plan, no real identity. Even so, in the middle of this chaos, one name has stood out: Brock Bowers. Against the Chargers, he found the end zone twice, ran crisp routes, and had plays tailored for him to shine even with the defense keying on him. Pete Carroll himself praised him. He talked about the perfect route, the clean execution, and that chemistry that is still growing but already pops in key moments. If the Raiders want any real shot against Denver, this guy cannot disappear from the game plan. In the first meeting with the Broncos, he was used less than he should have been. Now, with a new play caller, the expectation is to see Bowers lining up everywhere, forcing mismatches and attacking the middle of the field and the red zone. When you have that level of talent and a line that does not protect, the ball has to get into his hands fast. What drives fans in silver and black crazy is that even with these pieces, the offense goes long stretches completely flat. Drives that start well die in the middle of the field. Third downs are too long all the time. Execution stalls out. It feels like there is a lack of courage to change concepts and fully commit to a system that makes the whole group faster and less predictable. This game against the Broncos is going to say a lot less about raw stats and a lot more about direction. If the offense shows real signs of life, with Geno making cleaner decisions and Bowers treated like a true star, you can at least see a thin path toward the near future. If it is just another game of apathy and constant hits on the quarterback, the front office is going to have to face a brutal question. Who is the real X factor of this team when the ball is kicked off on Sunday? You know what is craziest about this rematch with the Broncos? We just watched this movie a few weeks ago, and it still feels like everything is on the line again. It is a home game, the record is ugly, and a division rival is on the other sideline. It is the kind of afternoon that becomes a reference point. Either the team shows a response, or it stamps this season as dead for good. Last time out, the Raiders came in as underdogs and almost pulled it off. The defense held one of the best offenses in the league to only 10 points. They took away the quarterback's comfort, scrambled his reads, and forced mistakes. The offense did not keep up, but it was obvious there is a blueprint there. The X factor now is taking that base and pushing even harder without collapsing in the second half. At the center of all this is the matchup Thomas Valentine highlighted. Denver's passing game revolves around its top receiver. He has a ton of catches, more than 700 receiving yards, 5 touchdowns, and a stack of deep balls of 20 yards or more. When he gets going, their offense looks completely different. When he disappears, the entire plan falls apart. Against the Raiders, he had one of his worst games of the season. 3 catches, 24 yards, and 0 explosive plays. On paper, it might look like just another stat line, but anyone who watched live felt the impact. The quarterback lost his safety valve, started holding the ball too long, and the silver and black defense took emotional control of the game. It was beautiful to watch. On the other side of the line of scrimmage, Eric Stokes flipped that matchup on its head. He is having a rock-solid season, giving up very few catches and almost no big plays over the top. He is playing like he already earned a long-term deal, even though he arrived as a one-year gamble. When you look at the coverage metrics and then turn on the tape, it is obvious this is not a fluke. He sticks to receivers and forces the offense to look elsewhere. To be honest with you, the real X factor is not just Stokes shutting down their number one target. It is the domino effect that comes with it. If he can repeat that performance, the pass rush gets more time, the defense can blitz more confidently, and the rest of the secondary can play more aggressively. You pull the rug out from under their offense right at the first read. But there is the other side of the coin. It is no use holding the score down again if the offense powers off after a promising start. Geno Smith has to finish drives in the end zone. Ashton Jeanty has to show up as that spark that changes the offense's energy. Tough runs, catches out of the backfield, gritty first downs, that is what keeps the defense locked in. If Stokes erases Denver's top weapon again and Geno and Jeanty capitalize on every opening, this game has everything it needs to become one of the biggest upsets of the season. If any of those pieces fail, it is going to feel like another chance wasted right in front of the home crowd. And that weight, everything this combination means for the team's immediate future, is exactly what we need to tie together in our final takeaway. There is one thing tying all of this together: a defense that is competing with Denver, a coaching staff on shaky ground with a coveted name circling again, an offense stuck in neutral while Geno and Bowers try to keep the lights on, and a home game that can become either a turning point or a verdict. All of that lands in the lap of this fan base in silver and black, worn out and stubborn at the same time. This is a crossroads moment for the Raiders. It is time to decide whether this team is going to embrace a real rebuild or keep kicking the problems down the road. If you made it all the way here, drop a comment, because this space belongs to everyone who lives and breathes Raiders football.